Fears are growing of a wider conflict in the Middle East. Jordan's foreign minister is to hold talks in Iran amid increasing tensions in the region. Tehran has been readying its response to the killing of the political leader of Hamas, a group considered a terrorist organization by many countries. And early on Sunday, the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah fired dozens of rockets into Israel in response to recent Israeli airstrikes.
Rocket fire lit up the sky in Lebanon as Hezbollah launched barrages of ordnance at neighboring Israel. Across the border, Israel's Iron Dome system intercepted the rockets. This time, at least, there were no reports of damage.
Allahu Akbar.
Observers fear the recent killing of senior Hamas and Hezbollah leaders could have moved the needle closer to open conflict between Israel and Hezbollah and its Iranian backers. As tensions ratcheted up, long lines are forming at Beirut's international airport. The US, the UK, and other governments are urging their citizens to leave Lebanon as soon as possible. The US Embassy in Lebanon told its citizens to leave on any ticket available after several airlines suspended and canceled flights to Beirut.
I'm very scared, but I'll pull myself together and go. I've already booked a ticket. And now at the airport, they're saying it's going to escalate. So I'm scared, honestly, I'm very scared. I'm scared I won't be able to leave this country and of dying here. And yeah, I'm scared.
Meanwhile in Gaza, the violence continues unabated. This was the scene after an Israeli strike on a school compound. Israel claims the school was being used as a Hamas weapons factory. But local officials say the building was housing Gazans displaced by the fighting.
After they struck, we came here and found the school and the houses completely destroyed. And there were people who were injured further away on the streets behind the school. There were killed and injured people.
Many Israelis are calling for an end to the fighting and a deal to bring home the hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza. But with negotiations seemingly stalled and tensions rising, that's looking increasingly unlikely for now.
In Israel, 2 people have been killed and 2 others hurt in a stabbing attack. Police say a suspect, who they described as a resident of the West Bank, was shot and killed by responding officers. The attack occurred in Holon, a city near Tel Aviv. A police statement has called it a terrorist incident. I have DW's Middle East analyst, Shani Rosanes, here with me in the studio for more. Hi, Shani. Let's begin with this stabbing near Tel Aviv this morning. What does this tell us?
Well, it tells us we know it, but it's coming more and more clearly. The West Bank is boiling. It's been simmering on low heat since October 7th, and the last months have been quite intense. And definitely last week, Palestinians have learned of the assassination both of Def, who was the military leader of Hamas, who was already killed in the middle of July, but was confirmed dead this week, and of course Haniya, who was assassinated in Tehran. These 2 are from the old members of Hamas, are very well known, very popular, also in the West Bank. And of course, we see that, the tensions are high, the emotions are high, the frustration, the anger. West Bank also, there's a high level of unemployment. There's, lives in the West Bank have been very hard since October 7th. And we see it infiltrating more and more into Israel. And that's just one of the fronts Israel will have to probably face soon, as we're seeing more and more tensions rising. And this is also partially what Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, wanted. When he launched the 7th of October attack, he wanted to have as many fronts that Israel would have to face as possible. He was hoping not just Gaza to be there, but also West Bank, what we've been seeing in Lebanon, what we're seeing now happening in Iran. In many ways, for Sinwar, this week is actually finally seeing the wide extension of the goals that he has set to himself. Wider conflict in the region seems to be serving his purposes.
So this does sound like a fundamental change in regional dynamics here, and it also sounds like the war in Gaza is not the only active front anymore.
Yes, indeed. I mean, when Israel decided to assassinate one of the leading military leaders of Hezbollah, it was clear that Hezbollah will have to, respond more than just what we've been seeing, the back and forth, the fire exchanges we've been seeing since October, but rather than, there's two separate, almost you would say, fights that Hezbollah is holding, with Israel. On one is the solidarity one with Gaza. On the other is its own need to avenge, the death of its own people. And this will make things more complicated if you add Iran to that, which also feel like, despite the fact the assassin was was a Sunni Palestinian leader, it was done on their land, in one of the most secured compounds in the heart of the capital, the day after inauguration of a new president. It's clear Iran cannot, just sit idly by and not respond. So Israel, what was doing this week is basically saying, anybody who thinks that we are winding our efforts down or we are trying to, strive for a deal and bring this whole conflict, to a close, we're actually doubling in. We're going all in on all fronts, and we're trying to show we're not deterred, we're not afraid of anybody or anything, and we can deal also with multiple fronts, happening simultaneously, or at least this is the message Israel would like to send. We will have to wait for the response to see how well Israel manages to actually deal with these threats. Yeah,
indeed, Shani. We don't have much more time, but just very briefly, Iran, now a few days after these assassinations, already clear what kind of response we will see from them?
We see it's not a gut response. We see Iranians are taking their time. They're very happy to keep Israel on edge, to see everybody, on high alert. Probably we'll see some kind of a joint attack with some of the proxy militias that we know are connected to Iran. And I guess the threshold that we've seen in April of over 300 different missiles that were shot in Israel, that would be the minimum they will start from. And I guess they would have to try to spike it up and be a bit more efficient and effective in their targeting this time.
Well, thank you so much for joining me in the studio. That is Shani Razanis.